I've been teaching Arnis for a long time now, and one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a beginning student is the point where they're asked to swing a stick at another human being. And for most of us, unless there's some overwhelming need to do so, it's really tough to make that happen.
You hit back and you get them right in the face and you fucking take their head off.
What you see instead is either a strike that stops well outside of where it should, or a series of 90-degree angles so that the stick completely avoids the other person. But that robs both people of legitimate training in this sense. The attacker doesn't learn how to do a real strike, and the defender doesn't learn what a real strike looks like. To get you past this very common problem, I'm going to suggest a 4-step progression and then a series of drills that'll take you from not being able to swing a stick properly to full sparring. Step 1. You and your partner are facing each other, and one of you is going to lightly tap the other on a set of prearranged targets, usually shoulders and hips, but you can vary that bit. The other person just stands there. That's all they need to do, just be a target. I really want to stress you are tapping lightly. That's all you're doing. Okay, now that both of you have had a chance to be both the attacker and the receiver on this one, it's time to move to step 2. This doesn't take very long before you can advance through all 4 steps. Step 2, we're going to add in movement. This isn't purposeful movement like you're trying to take territory or you're trying to get around the other person. You're just adding a bit of randomness to the exercise. But again, the attacker is tapping lightly on prearranged targets. Okay, step 3, we're going to introduce blocking. In this case, your partner is still lightly tapping you on those prearranged targets, and you're just going to put the stick in the way. You're just making a barrier. This is not the time to introduce a lot of technical intricacies of blocking. This is just about getting one person to put a stick in the way. That's it. That's all we're going to do here. Okay, if you are an Arnis instructor or guru, stop me if you've heard this one before. Don't worry, I'll block your strikes. It's really common. I hear this all the time. And it's not nearly as reassuring as you think it is. A beginner still doesn't want to necessarily hit you, and the idea that you're going to block it doesn't make it better. Pretty soon you're going to be able to move to step 4, which, like step 2 earlier, we're introducing movement. Again, this isn't purposeful movement, this is just introducing an aspect of randomness to the whole endeavor. You really don't need to spend a lot of time on these 4 steps. You'll get everything you need to know out of them in a few minutes. That's all it takes. These next drills are about building sparring proficiency. This isn't about building technical skills, like how to properly do a roof block or an umbrella block or something like that. This is about integrating those skills into movement and a resisting opponent. First drill is cadena. This means chain, and the idea is that it's like in many sports where you have a volley or a rally and people are knocking the ball back and forth between each other, but nobody's trying to score, nobody's trying to win. It's about keeping things in motion. Same thing is happening here. Whereas with the last 4 steps, one person was the attacker and the other person was the defender. Now you're going to be exchanging shots 1 for 1. Each of you gets a strike, and then each of you gets a block. Cadena builds good habits in terms of where your stick is for blocking. It builds efficiency, how to turn blocks into strikes, and vice versa. And it's a good lead up to other skills. We also use this as a warm-up in many of our classes. The next drill is triplets. This is fairly common in the Filipino martial arts, and we can use this for a lot of different things. Here we're going to be using a stick, but you could do it with punches, kicks, all sorts of things. All that's happening is one person attacks, the other person parries it, blocks it, counterattacks, and then the original person attacks the second time, and then the roles switch. So kind of like Cadena in the sense that you're going 1 for 1, but there's a break in the rhythm, which helps move things closer to a sparring feel. People aren't just sitting there kind of doing this robot movement and sparring, so you need to break up the rhythm. As mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to do triplets, and I'm going to leave a link to a video at the end of this showing one variation that we call the Cherry Dog Cha-Cha. Alright, let's get into sparring. So, much like the other steps, you need to take this at a gentle progression. You do not need to go full throttle. Start light, be respectful of your training partner, take breaks if you need to, and if your partner says, whoa, you need to respect that. At some point during all of this, you're going to need to think about safety gear. At a bare minimum, I'm going to recommend some sort of glove, and I'm going to recommend eye protection. Now that you've got a thorough grounding in those first 4 steps, and you've been working diligently on drills like Cadena and triplets, you've got your protective gear and you've got your sparring partner, you're ready to start sparring. The speed, the intensity, and the contact levels of your sparring have to go hand in hand with your skill and your experience levels. Start off slow. You will not regret going too slow to start, but you absolutely will going too fast. As your skill with sparring improves, I expect the contact levels are going to go up too. So you might want to look into added protection, heavier gloves maybe, or fencing masks. Some schools will use padded jackets. Those might be a good option for you as well. I really like fencing masks for sparring. Safety glasses, I mandate them for my class, but for sparring, I like the all-around head protection of a fencing mask. Please note I'm using the term fencing mask, not fencing helmet. This is not a helmet. Don't look at it for that level of protection. I'm going to run through a bunch of sparring clips here because I want to show you sort of the variations you can have in terms of intensity, in terms of what weapons you're using, and just some of the possibilities that you can explore with your sparring. So in contrast to that, I belong to a group called the Dog Brothers, which is a multinational group of stick fighters who go with as heavy contact as they can and trying to go with minimal protective gear. Which might not seem like a good idea, but that's what we are. I don't recommend this for everybody. Really, my recommendation is for you guys, safety first. Okay, I hope that helps you develop your sparring skills. And if you have other methods that you use to develop them, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to suggest you check out this video for more information about doing triplets, and we'll see you next time.